Hi, I'm Katie Duke, and I've been a nurse for over 20 years. Listen, I used to think that I was my most stylish in my 20s, but honestly, style and confidence only get better with age. And that is why I love Figs. These scrubs are beautiful, comfortable, and they are built to last. They're not those boxy, scratchy uniforms that we all started out in. No. These fit perfectly. They feel amazing, and the quality is just wow! My favorite color? Burgundy. It's chic, it's timeless, and it's even the same color as my apartment, because I'm kind of obsessed with it. And I love adding custom embroidery to make my scrubs as personal as my style. And since I work in telehealth, my embroidered Figs even double as my ID badge. It's never too late to reinvent yourself or your scrubs. Get 15% off your first order at wearfigs.com with the code FIGSRX. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX for 15% off your first order.
You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Episode 26, Imposter Syndrome.
Welcome to another episode of Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm Marina Kravchuk.
And I am Charlene Schmidt. Just like our flagship Mission Log podcast, each week here on Mission Log Prodigy, we discuss each and every episode of this animated series, we discover what makes each of them special, and we see if there's any morals, meanings, or messages that we have learned.
This week, we have a case of imposter syndrome. Please remember that Mission Log Prodigy is an in-depth review podcast, so if you haven't seen this episode yet, you may want to put us on pause, watch the episode, and then come back to hear us talk all about it.
That's right. Mission Log Prodigy is produced for YouTube and as a regular podcast. So please be sure to like and share and press all the buttons. Subscribe to us. Make sure that you're here on the Roddenberry Entertainment YouTube channel. If you're here with us there, or if you're just listening on a podcatcher of your choice, please subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you'll find us. And you can also follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at ML_Prodigy. And that way you can keep up with all of our latest news and updates there.
Before we jump into the recap, let's remind everybody why our podcast is so unique. We want to hear from the cadets, the younger Prodigy fans out there who would like to share their thoughts on the show. Starting today, we're putting out call for submissions for next week's episode, The Fast and the Curious. How do you do that? Here's a quick refresher. Please send us a 1 to 2 minute voice message at missionlog-prodigy@roddenberry.com and tell us the following. What is your first name and age? Did you like the episode? What was your favorite part? And what did you learn? The deadline for The Fast and the Curious is Saturday, August 10th. So please get your comments in before they can be featured at the end of our next show.
That's right. And as we tend to do on this show, how about we kick things off in this episode by answering those very questions about the episode we're talking about today, which is Imposter Syndrome. So, Marina, did you like the episode?
Yes, I did. This was, on one hand, a little bit of a last, oh my goodness. On the other hand, it was fun. It was a very nice connective episode. As Zero says, well, now on to the next crisis. So our threads kind of like not so much stalled as they paused a little bit. So we don't know what Essentia is up to. We don't know what Iltheron is up to. Our crew came back on board. And so, Rock is there. So everybody's back together again. And what's more, they now have restricted access. So there's, seemingly it's like what activity can they possibly participate in? Janeway is melancholic. The wormhole has been collapsed. So what happens with Chakotay now? We don't know. Yeah. So the whole episode, the purpose seemingly is to engineer, to jumpstart the next stage, the next arc of the adventure. So that part makes it very fun.
I totally agree. Yeah, this is an episode that basically keeps the wheel turning, right? It's winding us up for the next leg of the adventure. And I agree. It was fun. In Trek lore, this is very much the holodeck malfunction episode, or at least an offshoot of that trope. And it's not really going to tie any of our hanging threads together. And that is okay because it accomplishes the goal of setting the kids on finding their way toward Chakotay and the Protostar. And that part of things is exciting. Now that said, did I enjoy writing the recap for this episode? Well, that was hard. I'll admit
I
it.
bet. I mean, how did you manage to keep all of them? I lost thread. I'm like, I
Well,
cannot tell which Dal is real, which Rock is real. That
I'll
was
tell you
nuts.
what, after I read it, let me know how I did. So, what was your favorite part of this one?
I absolutely loved Team Rock. That was the perfect moment. It encapsulates what Rock Talk is all about. It kind of encapsulates like one of the major themes, I think, and we'll talk about this closer to the end of the episode about this episode. I love the fact that very similar to Zero, it's Majel who takes one for the team by distracting the doctor. That was brilliant.
Yes.
And just generally the whole thing, which is, as you said, it's an offshoot of holodeck malfunction type. Zero and Jenkum come up with this absolutely nutty solution of like, why don't we make identical copies of ourselves as holograms? What could possibly go wrong?
Right. Oh, what could
So,
possibly go wrong?
yeah, that was fun.
I'm totally with you. Team Rock for the win. It was only natural that Rock and Hologram Rock were going to work together and find the solution. I can't emphasize enough how much I love that. That is such pure Prodigy right there. Just even in that one little thing. It's so great. Well, what did you learn? Any morals, messages, meanings?
We're still circling the same main theme for the entire season, which is basically it's the teamwork,
Yes.
teamwork and not giving up. So in this case, we have another little thing is like knowing yourself, because in this case, yeah, they create identical copies. They have to face themselves throughout the entire episode. I love the fact that we have Majel reappearing. Remember at the end of last episode, I was saying, well, is she out of the picture? What's going to happen?
Right.
No, she's there, and yes, it's important to help your real friends. Similarly, sort of continuation from what the doctor said, that hope is never futile. We have Janeway giving a similar pep talk to the kids, saying, "Well, faith is not futile," which is in this case, there's a little bit of like it's a funny counterpoint, because I mean she's trying to be this very mentorly and inspiring. Meanwhile, they're trying to do their best to get off the ship and go and save Chakotay and help Gwyn. So it's yeah. And speaking of which, is they have this thing, raison d'être. I think it's forgive my pronunciation. They have now this very solid goal. They want to save Chakotay, and they have to figure out a way to save Gwyn. And I feel like everything is obviously gonna be heading along that axis going forward.
Yes.
So that's, multiple little things, but it's great that we're continuing on comprehensively following this storyline.
Absolutely. Yeah, little things is what I noticed as well. There isn't a massive, like really in your face moral meaning. Here is what the story is all about, kind of a message in this episode. And I think that does happen because this is sort of like a connective tissue kind of story where we're bridging between what's happened and where we're going. And that's okay that there isn't a profound lesson here. We're still seeing the kids doing what they're doing best, and that is working together, solving one crisis at a time.
Yeah.
So
and I love
that's not a complaint.
It's very personal. It's happening on the scale of characters, our little group. Whereas, like, lest we forget, we're in the middle of a time paradox that potentially may affect the entire galaxy. So it's it's a absolutely fantastic setup. So thank you so much, Char, for your answers. And now it's time for this episode's recap.
Okay, here we go. So this is the episode Imposter Syndrome, written by Deandra Pendleton Thompson and directed by Sung Shin. Dal is being chased down a corridor by Gwyn and is surrounded shortly thereafter by Zero, Murph, and Jankum. Dal pleads that his real friends would never do this to him, which begs the question, if these aren't Dal's real friends, who are they? To answer this question, let's go back 24 hours. The gang's in the holodeck, working on their astrometric studies, all under the EMH's watchful eye. That's a ruse, of course, for what they're really doing, which is determining where Chakotay could be. They've narrowed it down to one O-class planet in a nebula that matches the observer's message exactly. The planetoid disappeared off star charts years ago, but recent experience has given Gwyn confidence that there's more to this situation than meets the eye, and they should go to this planetoid. Just one little obstacle. How do they get there undetected? In Dal's mind, they don't have time for Starfleet to shoot their idea down. This is a situation where they will ask for forgiveness later rather than permission now. And they will borrow a ship, not steal it. To throw off anyone who notices that our crew is missing, Zero and Jankum have been working on holographic doubles of all of them that will cover for them while they're gone. The holograms are a little glitchy, though. Not a problem, says Rock, who will clean up the code with Zero and Jankum's help. Meanwhile, Gwyn, Dal, and Murph peer into the hangar where the Infinity sits. How will they get aboard her? They're interrupted by Tysus, who just happens to be looking for them. Turns out, Dal left a tricorder on the Infinity. Dal apologizes and promises it won't happen again, and Tysus agrees. It won't happen again because the Infinity will soon be destroyed. Starfleet wants all evidence of their classified mission gone, especially a ship with a cloaking device. Why not just cloak it rather than destroy it, Dal jokes, and Tysus actually laughs. He reveals to Dal and Gwyn that the ship's send-off into a blue giant happens at 0800. It is exactly what Dal and the crew needed. As long as they can get aboard the Infinity before it launches, they can cloak the ship before it's fried, and the Voyager crew will be none the wiser. Time is short, so Gwyn, Dal, and Murph catch up with Rock, Jankum, and Zero to see how they're doing. They walk back into the holodeck for a surprise, the Protostar bridge. Rock finds it easier to think there. The team has just finished refining their holographic counterparts, and these holograms are fully loaded. They can trick scanners, they have personality subroutines, and they look identical to the real-life versions. Just then, Janeway and the EMH are at the door. He cannot wait to show Janeway how much progress the kids have made, all thanks to his mentorship, of course. Meanwhile, the kids scramble to hide their doubles because the holograms haven't finished their calibration. They'll lose all of their hard work if they turn them off, and they don't have time for that. Just as Janeway is about to use her override code in case something is wrong, Dal opens the door. She's charmed by seeing the Protostar again and praises the kids on how well they've handled everything they've been through. She assures them that no one could have predicted the paradox that occurred, but the Federation will find a way and set things right. But now, the task is bigger than any of them, and Voyager will soon set a course back for Earth. She leaves them back to it, and they cannot believe their luck. Everything is going perfectly. Maybe a little too perfect, in fact. The holograms are so identical to their counterparts that they now think the Infinity Heist is their mission, and now our non-hologram crew has to stop them. If the holograms leave Voyager, they'll disappear, and the kids plan to save Gwyn, Chakotay, and the Protostar will too. They make a plan. Each person will hunt down their own double, then regroup before launch with time to spare. If only it were that easy. Hologram Zero encounters Dal, and in hardly any time at all, accuses Dal of being a rogue because Hologram Zero can only read holographic minds. Then Dal runs into himself, and a fight almost ensues, but the clock is ticking. 30 minutes until launch. While on the chase, Zero bumps into Majel. She begins an apology for being distant as of late, only to see Zero's duplicate also in the corridor. Zero asks if they can continue this conversation later. They just aren't feeling like themselves today. Cut to Jankum, who's caught up with Jankum. To prove who the real Jankum is, Hologram Jankum proposes a test of who has percussive maintenance pitch on a broken replicator. Real Jankum gives it a valid attempt, but Hologram Jankum gives the machine back to life with one solid thump. This confuses Jankum. How can he know if he is real? Is he Jankum? It's a Pog-pocalypse! On his way to the holodeck, Dr. Noam sees Jankum in crisis in the corridor and asks if he would like to talk about it. There's no time, Jankum yells as he runs off. No matter. The doctor loads his tropical island retreat program as originally planned. In Cetacean Ops, Rock and Hologram Rock decide that working on the problem together will help them determine who is real and who isn't. Go Team Rock! Meanwhile, Hologram Gwyn has deceived Dal into a trap, and that brings us back to the chase at the start of the episode. Just as the holograms of Zero, Murph, and Jankum are about to attack Dal, Gwyn comes to the rescue. But time is shorter than ever. Janeway announces that the Infinity is 10 minutes away from launch. The kids surround their holographic counterparts, but before a fight breaks out, Rock and Hologram Rock interrupt with a solution. If they overload the ship's holomatrix, that should reset their holographic counterparts, and they'll have no recollection of their mission to get to the Protostar. Both Rock Talks press the reset button, and the overload wreaks some havoc. Not only do the crew's holographic counterparts flicker offline, but so does everything else holographic. This reboots the EMH, whom rematerializes right in front of the kids on their rush journey into the hangar. Before he can cause too much of a delay, though, Majel interrupts. She has heard that the EMH is a skilled opera singer, and would he be interested in giving her a vocal lesson? Of course he would. And off they go. So Dal, Gwyn, Rock, Jankum, Zero, and Murph can make their way to the Infinity. They arrive just in time to see the ship launch. But Dal's not the only one in the group who can think on their feet. Gwyn masks an emergency transport and they beam aboard. Once out of scanner range, Jankum activates the cloak as the Infinity seemingly burns into the bright blue sun. As they set course for the nebula, Rock notes that their holographic counterparts should be rebooting right about now. Her tricorder registers a tiny irregularity, but it's probably nothing, right? Cut back to Voyager's holodeck, where the holographic counterparts have indeed materialized, but not with their correct voices. Dun, dun, dun. To be continued next week. So, how did that go?
That was great. Do you know something? You actually got a really good handle. At one point, I'm like, oh, yeah, that was the holographic one, not the real one. And I flipped them in my mind. So, yeah, it was kind of hard to keep track of which was which.
It was really hard to keep track of it. The episode did a great job of confusing you and making sure you weren't sure who was who. Yeah. Like, you have to watch really, really, really closely. And several times, as I did. Yeah. Well, how about we get into some observations? Because there's some fun stuff happening in this episode. Like, we're just dropped right into the action with this intro. And I love stories that just drop us right in and waste no time creating the intrigue of like, okay, well, how did we get here? And then we go back and tell the story. It works on me every time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great technique to do this because it grabs you. It's like, why on earth are they chasing Dal? That's kind of counterintuitive. So there are quite a few fun things, quite a few interesting things. There are certainly, as always, certain things dropped in that kind of go back to previous Star Trek productions, which are always fun to discover.
Of course, yes.
In this, I'd like to begin is that I keep thinking about the Infinity. I am actually rather puzzled, and I don't know if we're going to get an explanation on how on earth did Janeway and her staff actually manage to have Infinity built, seeing how, I mean, at some point Tysus actually says, the existence of this craft breaks 3 different Federation treaties. So it's like, it's very, very illegal to have something like this.
Yes.
How did that come about? And I mean, in this case, the order is given, Infinity has to be destroyed, which I find a very clever way of doing this, which does happen similar ways sometimes. I mean, you're just launching it into the star and that's it. The star is going to take care of it.
It's such a good question, though. Yeah. I mean, really, how did this whole thing, I get it, it's a classified project, but how did we get here?
I would not be surprised if it was an idea that Janeway conceived of. Remember that all our conversation about taking risks and, coming up with crazy solutions. So it's quite possible. And in this case, yes, it is classified. Nobody knows that it's there. But if somebody does find out, Federation's going to have a whole lot of trouble, potentially.
That's right. That's right. One thing that I really appreciated about this episode was that finally Dal acknowledges at the top of this episode about locking the door to the holodeck. Like, this is kind of a funny thing that happens throughout all of Star Trek. Like, people just walk right on into your program. No big deal, no privacy. No one thinks to lock the door. There's not an automatic lock on the door. I don't get it. But he finally wised up and did lock the door when Janeway and the EMH stopped by. I thought that was funny.
I love the fact that you have this moment when they walk in, Janeway and the Doctor, and as Murph is doing this a lot this season, at least so far, where he kind of sneaks up and does something, and there's like this very brief moment where he comes up with the mug of coffee and just hands it to Janeway. I'm like, this is just
very hospitable.
Yeah, just completely out of nowhere. It's like blink and you miss it moment, but I'm like, that's fun.
It is fun. Speaking of fun things, and another food observation, because that is apparently my thing. Burritos are part of Talaxian cuisine. I could not help but notice that because it got
Listen.
mentioned twice. Let me guess. They have Leola root.
Oh, they bound to. They bound. It's got to be. I mean, in this case, you know what? Talaxians seem to be very culinarily adventurous. I mean, what we know from Netflix, it's anything goes, whether it's palatable or not.
This is true. Well, to take it in the complete opposite direction, maybe it's just the spiciest, most screaming burrito you've ever had, in which case I am down to try it. But if it's got Leola root, nope, sorry, I might actually pass. And I don't pass on burritos.
Yeah, better not risk it with that damn root. Something I found curious. Like, we already had this discussion previously where, like learning the consequences of one's actions, and Del does tend to be on a very risky and reckless side of things. He again comes up on the spot with completely, reckless idea on how to return to the mission. We're just gonna borrow the Infinity, go and do everything that we've been talking about, save Chakotay, return Protostar, help out Gwyn and everything. And in this case, we don't actually, I mean, you can kind of sort of see Rob kind of going like, oh God, we're digging this hole again.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's not just jumping empty-handed. Zero actually offers is like, no, we have the holodupes plan. There is an idea of how to do this, so we might as well just go with it. And Rock joins in. So we have the entire crew, going along with it. So, incidentally, something that you mentioned when doing recap, when Janeway walks in and discovers that, oh, they're on board Protostar. It's the Protostar's bridge. I thought it was incredibly, well, it was sweet, of course. It was also very sad, the fact that Rock says, oh, it helps me think. Because as far as we know, Rock is actually the one person who spent the most time on board Protostar. Remember Timomok? We don't know how long she's been stuck there by herself, learning all that science. So, yeah, it's a wonderful, sweet, and a little bit sad touch to this scene.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah. Rock, I found it interesting that everybody did get on board with
very quickly.
Point. Like, we're going to do this reckless and risky plan this time. I have more to say on that a little bit later, but I definitely want to talk about holograms just a little bit because holograms have always been a little problematic throughout all of Star Trek. Most of them aren't as complex as, say, the EMH or hologram Janeway. And they're just harmless fun, but they always require a lot of code. And the more features you add to code, the more that can go awry. I know this as a programmer. And this can include making holograms too good. And I thought about the TNG episode Elementary Dear Data, where Geordi programmed a hologram to defeat Data, an android, and all that went completely awry there. I feel like Rock Talk did a similar thing here. She did too good. She did A++ work, and it actually backfired.
Just generally, I mean, this is like the very end of the episode. The whole thing with the holograms coming back after the whole Matrix resets, and the personalities are all switched up. That was hysterical. I mean, we get just a very short scene where, Dal all of a sudden speaks with this Zero's British accent, then Gwyn just making random beep boop boop noises. That was brilliant. And again, something that we'll talk about later when we have the lesson discussion. It's something that kind of struck me as, when Jankum is having his breakdown, Pog-pocalypse? He has some really witty puns that... Dr. Noom suggests having a sit-down session with him. Like, wasn't Dr. Noom a medical doctor in season 1, and now he's a counselor? When we were just starting rewatch, remember I kind of wondered, like, what would Dr. Noom think about EMH running around his sickbay? 2 doctors.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it looks like, no, it's EMH is at least part of the medical staff, and Dr. Noom is... I don't know, switch specialties perhaps. So that's a curious little thing, unless he was always a counselor and it just came about that he was, advising Janeway not to drink that much coffee.
I mean, it's possible that he's also cross-trained, both as a medical doctor and as a psychologist. Yeah,
but that was like a very, very sudden. I'm like, oh, he's a counselor.
Okay. Right. Well, and I mean, I guess the EMH has his 10-step programs has his own branding of this sort of help. And so maybe this is just a thing now that they do in the profession. I'm not 100% sure, but it is interesting.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the Pog-pocalypse, and there are so many goofy puns and quips in this episode, and Dal and Jankum especially get in on this action really hardcore.
Especially Jankum again.
Again, it's so good. It's so good at this.
I love it. So when he at the end when it's like, the Matrix reset and Jankum is like, okay, Jankum is Jankum, existential crisis averted. It's just so funny. He's being super serious.
Oh, yes.
And you know what? Another thing that kind of it also harkens back to Voyager. I remember when I think it's actually holographic Jacob that says it. He's like, we have a Hanunian pickle. How on earth does he know about this? This was such a random, a very deep cut just thrown in there for those who are don't remember or not aware. This is going way back into early seasons of Voyager, where the crew is stranded on Hanon 4, and all they have is basically some eggs and some pickles. There's very long cucumbers, and it's just so completely random. It's like,
so incredibly random. But if you need to look it up on Memory Alpha, it's probably up there now.
Yeah, I'm sure. Something I found very interesting change. So again, we haven't even gotten through a third of the season, but there's a marked difference to Tysus. Remember how he was in the beginning, no civilians allowed on the bridge, very strict.
Oh, yes.
So he's kind of still like, do not drop, your tricorders all over the place, but he's become far more sympathetic. I mean, he says, things like these kids have been through so much and they're dealing with this so well. So he's become much more caring than he was at the beginning. And interestingly enough, although perhaps maybe because they are already part of the mission, they're aware of the particulars, he's surprisingly very comfortable with sharing sensitive information. So it's like, Starfleet gave the order to destroy the Infinity, and it's going to happen at 8 o'clock, 0800. Okay, senior officer just dropping information to warrant officers just on the spot, right? Just like that.
On a classified mission.
Yeah.
Now, he knows that the kids know some things, but he didn't necessarily have to reveal that. That just really happened to be quite well in their favor this time around. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. He has definitely softened his tone. He has empathized a little more. Mm-hmm. I think it's just because he understands a lot more about their situation, where they're coming from, and why they are aboard the ship. He's not the only one either. I mean, Dr. Noam caring about Jankum's well-being, it's a similar kind of a thing. Like, they are definitely being a lot more friendly and open, a softer approach to them. They're finally coming around, and I love how this all cramps the kids' style in the most compassionate way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also like, okay, we got a plan. How do we do this? Meanwhile, there's doctors talking about this, and Janeway being all motherly and Tysus all understanding. And it's kind of amusing that in this case, it's the senior officers that unwittingly provide the key details to, how do you borrow the Infinity? Doctor with his idea with all these copies and his holo novels, and then Tysus, as we just mentioned, relaying that there's going to be a destruction of the Infinity. So, it's such a well-crafted episode. I just love how we have all these little things kind of putting together now, and then, what happens next?
Yeah. Well, how about we start moving into our discussion? And I am curious as to how this particular part of our episode will go, just because, as we said on the top of the show, there are not any profound morals, messages, or meanings necessarily in this episode. That's not what this episode is particularly designed to do. And nevertheless, I found some things and you found some things. So let's see where we go. How about you lead us in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always some meanings and messages there, and that's what we're here for, to discuss this.
Yeah.
So let's see. I love the fact that by coming up with this idea of creating exact copies, the crew basically creates a situation where they figuratively cannot trust themselves. They have to face themselves, and they cannot trust themselves, because at some point, Jankum is like, am I Jankum? Is he Jankum? Who's the real Jankum? Meanwhile, Dal is completely, I am pretty sure that he's probably like, is that what I'm like? that's just no.
Tone down the cockiness.
They certainly, I mean, as much as they've been learning the value of sticking together, they certainly can't trust each other. Again, figuratively, because like, is that real Zero? Is that a hologram Zero? Who's the real person? And to reiterate what we said in the beginning, it's fantastic that Rock is the one who basically says, well, logically, we all have literally the same problem. Why don't we put all our heads collectively together, even though they're doubles, and come up with a solution? And that's exactly what she does. Well, they do, both Rocks together.
Yes. I love how they both press the button just
together.
Everybody has to cooperate. And so without, I think, them both saying, okay, I'm on board if you're on board, that it happens. Without her, I don't know where we would be, honestly. And I have to say with holograms, this is just a lesson we keep on learning in Star Trek. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. With holograms, it is anyway.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my very big messages in this episode is holograms are just fickle beasts. And anytime anybody says, oh, that's probably nothing, of course it is. It always is.
Something I already mentioned, the fact that Majel is back into the picture, and
yes,
it's lovely where she's trying to kind of reach out and explain herself to Zero, when she shows up and saves the moment, because time is running out, Infinity is almost out the door, and here comes the Doctor. So, the fact that she just sidetracks him completely immediately. And also kind of is she flirting with Zero? That was so adorable.
Oh. I think she has a bit of a crush. I think she's into Zero.
Yeah.
I'm here for this. I ship it. I definitely think they're a good match. I like it. Okay, here's a question I have for you and our audience at large. Mm-hmm. Is it better to ask forgiveness than permission? This feels like a very double-edged sword.
Yes.
More often than not, I would say this is not a great message necessarily to put into a kid's show, because you want kids to learn the rules before they break them. Yeah. And Dal has definitely seen his share of trouble by not doing this. But I also have to confess that I think Dal is right here. Starfleet would just shoot them down. And so by going through the motions of that, not only would they ruin their chances, just nothing would happen. So he is in the right here, I think. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, I agree. But it is, again, kind of comes down to finding the balance, because you don't want the better ask forgiveness than permission to deteriorate into the ends justify the means. That could become a big problem. But in this case, you are right, specifically because of the circumstances of this particular mission. Because let's see, we already lost the wormhole. So losing Infinity, which was specifically created to withstand all sorts of phenomena and be, again, mission specific entity thing that we need for losing that as well, it's basically cutting off all the possible potentially helpful things that we might need in order to, again, find Chakotay and save Gwyn. I mean, still, time paradox is out there. We got to deal with it somehow. So the fact that, Dal comes up with the idea, crazy idea, but, possibly a workable solution. I also love the fact that Gwyn is the one who's actually also quick, and the one that comes up with the solution at the very end, and not Rock.
Yes.
He's you're
Everybody's
not the only
thinking
one who can...
really lightning fast in this episode.
Yeah. So it's... it's in this case, I think it is the correct solution. And as you said, otherwise we don't have a story unless we have to find the way to kind of push it forward.
And that's not usually a good reason.
In this episode yeah,
that's not usually a good reason to do a story, with that has the ends justify the means as the moral meaning and message. No. We know Prodigy is going to do a much better job of that, but in this particular moment, it is well, we want to trust Dal. We know that this is, their resources are running out. There is only so much time. Somebody had to make that call, and Starfleet is just way too busy doing its other things. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, it's kind of on that side of that range of like sometimes you have to make the risky decision to come up with a solution. So
Yeah.
let's see what it's going to lead to in the next episode. So let's wrap this up. What are your thoughts? Any final thoughts for the discussion?
Final thoughts. Well, I would say this is the kind of episode that just makes me want to keep watching. Let's go on to the next episode and find out what happens next, because we leave off just as things really get exciting. Like we get that sense of direction of where we're going, and oh my gosh, I want to know if they're going to find Chakotay in the Protostar. So I love this episode because once again we find our crew together on their own, on a ship, and on a mission. Sound familiar? Yeah,
Yep.
it seems right. It seems right. So that might seem like a backhanded compliment, but it's really not. Like, I really enjoyed this episode, and I love the way the kids come together and set themselves out on the next leg of the journey. It's, this is maybe not an episode that is going to make a whole bunch of top 10 lists as, oh my gosh, that was mind blowing good, but it serves a really important function to the overall story. So I like it for that. How about you?
Well, remember how in the beginning I said, it feels like, the threads kind of stalled, but they literally spinning out now and again, 3 different directions because again, we still don't know what's going on Solom. That's one thing that's hanging out there. Our crew is now by themselves on the ship. That's heading out somewhere. What's going to happen? And then we have the staff, Janeway and her crew remaining on Voyager. So now these 3 things are probably going to, going onwards and going to take us somewhere. And we end literally on this tiny little cliffhanger because, well, despite what the kids are thinking, the holodupes are not up to scratch once they're holometric. that much is definite. So how long possibly this ruse can work? I mean, somebody's going to walk into and realize that, Rock Talk is behaving like Jankum. Something's very obviously wrong. And I have to say that even though that very quick decision, reckless as it may be, it does seem to be like, okay, great. I mean, they took the Infinity, seemingly Infinity is destroyed. Nothing else is affected yet. And probably won't be because, okay, Starfleet is kind of like not even aware that this spacecraft exists. But can you imagine Janeway, like the headache of dealing with eventually finding out that she has missing teenagers and she has borrowed very illegal spacecraft out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
another problem for her to triage.
Onto another crisis, as Zero said.
Yes, and just as the crew is really starting, as we've mentioned in this episode, really starting to open up to them. And I wonder, is that going to all be taken back now because of what they've done here?
Yeah.
I don't know, but we don't get to find out here. We have reached the end of our show. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Mission Log Prodigy. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure that you do the like and the share and the subscribe thing. And make sure you subscribe to the Mission Log Prodigy playlist, too, so you don't miss anything that we do. And, of course, you can subscribe to us on the podcatcher of your choice as well. Mission Log Prodigy is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Production and technical direction by Earl Green. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is missionlogpodcast.com. And if you would like to support Mission Log directly, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. Next week, we will take a look at The Fast and the Curious. Don't forget to watch that episode and send us your thoughts no later than Saturday, August 10th. You can do that at missionlog-prodigy@roddenberry.com. We can't wait to hear what you have to say about that, but right now, let's hear what you have to say about Imposter Syndrome.
Receiving listener communications. Message playback begins.
All right, what's your name and age?
My name is Rook and my age is 9.
All right, Rook, did you like today's episode?
Yes.
What was your favorite part of the episode?
My favorite part of the episode was when the holo doubles locked the real ones in the holodeck.
Yeah, I like that too. What did you learn from the episode?
I learned from the episode that you should not fight, you should work together.
Right. When Rocktack and her double worked together, like that was much easier than the other ones fighting their double, right?
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.